This man would have an exorcism performed on him just hours before he unalived his wife. Oh, hi there, stranger. Today I'm going to be telling you about an exorcism that happened in the mid 1970s right here in England. It's followed by a brutal unaliving, so viewer discretion is advised. It's also particularly gory, so if you want to skip, as always, I totally understand, but if you're staying with me, then let's get to it. So today I'm telling you about the case of Michael Taylor, who was born on the 21st of September 1944 and by 1974 lived in Ossett, West Yorkshire with his wife Christine and their 5 children. Michael worked as a butcher, and the family are described as having a happy life, with Michael being jovial and kind, generous with his time and affectionate towards his family. Michael was frequently seen spending time with his children, tending to outdoors household maintenance, and, just being generally a family man with a big heart. Sometime prior to the events that I'm going to be telling you about, Michael had had a serious accident, and this resulted in a severe back injury. This injury to Michael's back and spine had left him unable to work and in chronic pain. Michael became more and more withdrawn from his family. He became irritable and frustrated and depressed. And that brings us to 1974 in Ossett, which was a very religious community, although Michael and Christine were not devout and didn't really attend too many church goings on in their area. However, with Michael's worsening mood and behaviour, it was suggested to him by a friend that perhaps he should attend church, and that it may be his lack of spirituality, which was why he was all contributing to his struggles. This friend was part of a church group, the Christian Fellowship group, and they really wanted Michael to attend a group meeting and see what he thought of it. Michael, for his part, was, as I'd said, he was struggling. He'd started to lash out at his family. He was struggling with anger and depression and all these other feelings, and so he decided to go along. So when Michael attended his first meeting, he met the lay leader of the group, the preacher, 21-year-old Marie Robinson. And from that first meeting, Michael did continue to attend the Christian Fellowship group meetings. He went to rituals with them, and more him and Marie did spend time together. Other church members started to speculate that Michael and Marie may be having an affair, and eventually one of the neighbours mentioned it to Michael's wife Christine. She decided to confront her husband. So Christine walks into one of the Christian Fellowship group's meetings and, in front of all of the members, accuses Michael and Marie of having a, quote, carnal relationship. Now, there are mixed reports on what happens next, but Michael, instead of addressing his wife Christine, he turns to Marie and he attacks her verbally. Now, some reports suggest that he started to speak in tongues. What is clear is that Michael had to be physically restrained by many members of the church group from getting to Marie, presumably to attack her physically. Now, for some reason, nobody decides to involve any authorities here. So no police or no medical professionals. The church decides to take charge of this situation. And they declare that Michael had been possessed by demons. And I shit you not, Sherlock homies, they order an exorcism to be performed on this man. Michael, who is clearly in a vulnerable mental state, agrees. The exorcism was to take place on the evening of the 5th of October 1974 at St Thomas's Church. The Anglican priest of St Thomas's, Father Peter Vincent, was to oversee the exorcism, aided by a Methodist clergyman, Reverend Raymond Smith. For hours, the priest and the Reverend exorcised nearly 40 demons out of Michael, soaking him in holy water and at one point pushing a holy cross down his throat. God knows what else happened that night, what lengths these men would have gone to exorcise these demons out of Michael. The exorcism took most of the night, with all three men exhausted by the end of it. The priest said that he'd exorcised nearly 40 demons out of Michael, but that 3 still remained. However, Michael needed some rest before the priest could exorcise the final 3 offending demons. And so he recommended that Michael go home with his wife for some much needed rest. And so Michael and Christine go home. There was one report that there were many other church members present at this exorcism, but I honestly don't know what the truth of the matter is. Just a couple of hours after returning home, Michael's condition must have worsened because he committed a brutal attack on his wife, Christine. Using only his hands, Michael removed Christine's eyeballs, her tongue, and nearly all of her face. She is said to have passed away quickly due to the force and intensity of the attack, which I hope is some small consolation to her loved ones. Michael also unalived and separated the family dog, again using only his hands, and was found shortly after wandering the streets entirely unclothed and covered in his wife's bodily fluid. All 5 of their children were thankfully not home. After the brutal slaying of his wife, Michael was of course arrested, and he said to police, quote, "They primed me for it last night. They tried to bring me peace of mind, but instead they filled me with the devil." And he later stated, "They were too late. I was compelled by a force within me to destroy everything living within the house." Now, before we go any further, I just want to point out a couple of things, because the first question I asked myself was, why was this man not being dealt with medically? So I looked into it, and it turns out that the link between spinal cord injury and personality changes had not even been investigated at this time in the mid-70s. And so there was just no medical link for them to make. So to them, mood and behaviour were personality issues, not medical issues, regardless of the fact that he had suffered from this serious accident. Even with the depression, the angry outbursts, Michael was never medically assessed for his personality changes. And, so he was never seen by doctors, and maybe Michael was wondering why he hadn't been able to, go back to normal after the accident and why he was feeling this way. He went to the church to seek answers. Many people do. Maybe Michael had an affair with Marie, but maybe he didn't. There was, never any evidence of it, and neither Michael nor Marie admitted to it. You know what overly nosy, judgy, holier-than-thou gossip can do in a small town? Gossip can create doubt and mistrust and destroy relationships. Maybe the church should have exorcised all of the gossip demons out of the nosy Nancys. Nowadays, we know that personality traits to look out for after a spinal injury can include depression, anger, irritability, anxiety, etc. At the trial, Michael's defence argued insanity and said that Michael's mental state had already been fragile before the exorcism and that he was pushed to his limit after it. I think that is fair. Michael was declared insane and acquitted of murder. He spent 2 years at Broadmoor for psychiatric treatment and then a further 2 years on a secure ward in Bradford's Royal Infirmary. And then he was released, and Michael went back to Ossett, where he remained. And strangers, I think I know what you're expecting now, because believe me, so was I, especially for any of you that have watched my England's Whole Lifers list, but it doesn't happen again. Well, I mean, there is another arrest. In 2005, he was arrested for inappropriately touching a teenage girl on 2 separate occasions. He had also made 4 attempts on his own life, and a judge did not deem a custodial appropriate in those circumstances, instead giving a community rehabilitation program with psychiatric observation and treatment. Michael is now 80 years old. Rest in peace, of course, to Christine Taylor, and I just hope that Michael and Christine's children manage to go on and have a happy life. To this day, the Church of England has 44 exorcists appointed by the Archbishop of Canterbury, and the VAT still offer courses for exorcists. But in England, the Exorcism of Children Act in 2001 makes it illegal for anybody to perform an exorcism on anybody else under the age of 16. What a scary story. But as always, if you've stayed with me up until now, then thank you for watching, and I will see you for the next one.